Welcome to the West Virginia Chamber of Commerce Weekly Legislative Update. We are officially in week 2. I am Kaylin Jorge, Chief Communications Development and Policy Officer, and I'm here with Brian Dayton. He is VP of Policy and Advocacy for the Chamber, and we're here just to give you a little breakdown of what's been going on this week at the Capitol. It definitely feels like session this week, so we are rocking and rolling. One of the first bills we wanted to highlight was HB 4007, and this is really an economic development bill.
So the House made it very clear back in December that they were going to focus very much on jobs, economic development, better education, really the things that we've been preaching for a long time. And one of the first bills that the Finance Committee took up is House Bill 4007. It's up for passage today in the House. Now, it's a fairly simple bill, but it's very important. It's going to double the amount of money that goes into the industrial access roads. Because what we know is that businesses that are shipping goods, they need to make sure that they can get in and out of that facility, and that can be a real challenge. So what has happened is that fund hasn't been updated in nearly 30 years, and those projects are now frequently above the allowable expenditure for industrial access roads. So this was one of the things they said, this needs addressed, we're going to address it, and that should clear the House of Delegates today.
Yeah, that sounds like a good one. I know anecdotally, we have spoken to local EDAs, and this was one thing that they did for one of their members, and it increased their capacity by threefold.
Significantly, so, yes.
Yeah, really good one. Another bill that we wanted to go over this week was HB 119, and this is a West Virginia Teach bill. We are happy here over at the Chamber to say that this was a Chamber bill. It's been suggested to the legislature, and really it all comes down to childcare.
So House Bill 4119 is, in its essence, it kind of carries on with the idea from Senate Bill 1 that was Senate President Mitch Carmichael's brainchild back in, I think, 2019. But what that bill states is that if you work at a child care facility for at least 20 hours a week, that you have to go for any scholarships that you can, but then the state will come in and basically cover that last dollar expense for an early childhood education degree. What we know is that being a child care worker is not a job where you're going to make a lot of money. And so the ability for these facilities to attract and retain workers is a major challenge. This is one of the things that we think can help out, is you have the opportunity, if you're looking for that early childhood education degree, well, while you're doing that, go work in a child care facility. You're going to get some real experience firsthand, but then you're also going to go ahead and have your education costs covered. So that bill was in the hearing stage yesterday in the House Higher Education Subcommittee. Great presentation by the sponsor, very few questions, everybody seems to be on board, so we're just watching that one. It has started the process and is moving its way through the House.
Mm-hmm. And here at the Chamber, of course, we've been staunch advocates of accessible and affordable childcare. You have been spearheading a lot of that. What do you think this bill does to the overall impact of the childcare issues in our state?
We think it's going to be absolutely helpful. And again, it comes back to there are many challenges facing childcare: affordability, availability, and also the centers themselves making sure that they can attract and retain workers. They're not immune from the workforce challenges that everybody else is facing. And this bill is really aimed at helping the workforce challenges for childcare providers. Okay.
One of the first things that the legislature had to take up this year was actually sort of an emergency situation. Now, HB 4574 and HB 4575, supplemental appropriations for schools in distressed counties. Can you give us a little bit of the background on that, what's happening now, and some of the implications that might impact the future?
So really something, as the legislative session started, I think everybody was shocked to hear about the financial situation with Hancock County schools. Mm-hmm. And it really came to fruition just within the past couple of weeks that Hancock County schools initially looked like they were not going to be able to make payroll within a month or two. And so obviously that's a crisis situation. Some of the really troubling things that have been found out is that inaccurate information was given to auditors. Those things weren't flagging. There are supposedly over 140 positions above what they should be. A lot of COVID dollars have been in there. I think some of those COVID funds are used, but those have expired, and so it was a real crisis. Last Friday, the State Board of Education had an emergency session and voted to take over Hancock County Schools. So the state is now in control of Hancock County Schools. This week, the House of Delegates, they did two bills. 4574 essentially establishes a fund, an emergency funding source for distressed counties, of which right now Hancock would be the only one in that category. And then House Bill 4575 is an $8 million supplemental appropriation to the Department of Education. Those bills, they suspended rules in the House delegates and sent them over to the Senate. The Senate is slowing things down a little bit and taking a deeper look at those bills. Part of the reason being is that there's a pretty strong belief that the immediate crisis has been averted now that the state is in control and is able to forward their state aid funding. But I think this is going to be an issue where they are going to start looking very, very diligently at various county school systems to really kind of double check, was this a one-off or is this a wider spread problem?
Yeah. So you talked about that $8 million. Do we know yet how that is going to be used in Hancock County or just in general for this supplemental appropriations, or are things still in the works?
Well, that $8 million, if passed by the legislature, would make it available for any counties in distress situations for the for the State Board of Education to go ahead and provide some additional appropriations. And again, the situation in Hancock County became very scary because we're talking teachers, service personnel, not getting their paychecks. And these are professions where people need their paychecks, you know, when they come in and need to have them on time. So it was a real potential crisis up in Hancock County. I think we're not out of the woods yet, but with the state now being in control of that school system, I think the Senate felt a little bit more on the page of, let's slow it down. Let's let the Education Committee and the Finance Committees dive into this a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I know we are highlighting a series of bills as we do every week, but there are maybe some bills that you might not hear us talk about, but we know that we are working things behind the scenes and constantly getting in touch with our members. Can you tell us a little bit about that process?
So that's just a daily process. You know, last night, Caitlin Petlack-Mora, one of our other members of our team, is an additional lobbyist. We were on the phone last night with members of the legislature at 9 p.m. Working on a bill and getting a bill straightened out. That happens all the time. We catch different things, and a lot of times it's just, you know, make a suggestion here, make a suggestion there to go ahead and, you know, avert what could be an unintended consequence. So we very much appreciate those relationships with the legislature, you know, that we're able to go in and work on those types of things. But we do that for a number of different issues. It's a lot of fly balls in the air. And so those things, that work is always ongoing.
Things can change on a dime.
Absolutely, yes.
As we saw yesterday. I did want to highlight the candidate filing period, which is now open. We're seeing a lot of candidates going over filing for election or re-election. I know that we have a robust program here at the Chamber. Can you just talk about the importance of getting the right people in office, especially for the business community?
Absolutely. You know, it's you want to make sure that you have people who truly understand particular businesses' issues going into the legislature, and that's why we are a citizen legislature. It's important to remember that. They're here part-time. And then most of them, they go back and they have jobs. Some are retired, some are school teachers, some are, you know, lawyers, accountants. I mean, you name it. But they go back and they have their regular day jobs. It's very important to make sure you have people in there that understand business, understand those decisions that businesses have to make on a daily basis. And so we have seen some really strong candidates filing for office. We're very excited. The filing period closes next Saturday, January 31st. But one of the notable filings this week, I think everybody watching this video knows, was Senator Shelley Moore Capito. She filed on Tuesday for re-election to her third term in the U.S. Senate.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much for being here today. And of course, we, as Brian said, things can change on a dime. So we are constantly updating our members. You can find these weekly videos on our YouTube page or on our website, wvchamber.com. As well, every single week we send out a bill tracker, and already second weekend, and we have hundreds of bills in our bill tracker. It is separated by industry and by issue just to make it easier for you to digest and break down. And we'll continue to do this throughout the session. So thank you, and we'll see you soon.